Hi, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Jesus Nava. I'm in the Client Training and Education Department for TradeStation Securities, and it's always a pleasure to join you guys in this live session to talk about TradeStation, talk about the technology, talk about what is available and how you can take the most advantage out of TradeStation functionality. Today, we're going to talk about placing trades using the desktop trade bar. This is a trade bar that is at the top of TradeStation. Sometimes it is overlooked. Sometimes people don't see it because it's a bar that rolls out when you hover over it. And to tell you the truth, there's so many different ways for you to place a trade inside of the TradeStation platform that is always good to have an understanding on how all these order entry tools work. That way, you can make an informed decision about which one works best for you. We're not going to say that one is better than the other. They are all different. But today, we're going to highlight precisely the trade bar. Very standard looking when it comes to comparing trading platforms out there. There are some things that are probably just exclusive to TradeStation, but we're going to talk about all those details in a moment, okay? So the chat is open. You're welcome to send any questions or any comments in there. Just make sure that you set the chat windows to everyone. There's a little drop down right there at the bottom. There are no download materials today. This is all hands-on the TradeStation platform, but I do encourage everyone to ask questions if you have any doubts about any of the functionality, all right? This week, I don't think I've sent, this morning, I meant to send all the messages regarding the TradeStation Masterclass, and I did not send out the schedule. The schedule this week's, looks very similar to the weeks that we've done in the past. Today, we have our platform deep dive, of course, desktop trade bar. Tomorrow is Tuesday, so we're going to be doing Ask the Experts at 11:30. And then we have David Russell at 12:30. On Wednesday, we have the Getting Started classes inside of the Getting Started channel, of course. And then we have the 12:30 session, which is a strategy trading class. The topic of that class is testing the day of the week or the month of the year. We're going to take a look at that's what we did last week, right? So this week is going to be about testing time segments. So I'll post the schedule once I finish this class so that you guys have the schedule posted right there in the notifications box if you're looking at the dashboard, so that you are all aware of what's going on, okay? Excellent. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the disclosures. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about is for educational purposes only. This is not a recommendation of TradeStation. Past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. And online trading, of course, is not suitable for everyone. We should all be aware of the risks associated with trading online. The link that you see right there in blue, repeated 3 times in this PowerPoint slide, takes you to additional details on these disclosures. So if you need to learn a little bit more, please go there, www.tradestation.com/important-information is the link that you have to go to. And that's it. Let's go ahead and get started with this class. I'm going to switch over to my TradeStation platform. Here it is. And this is how TradeStation comes up when you load it without any workspaces, without any desktops that you've created. It's just an empty work area, gray space right here in the middle of the screen. So I am going to go here to apps, and I'm going to open up a trade manager window. I open up the trade manager window when I'm talking about the trade bar because it does allow me to see the orders that I'm placing. You'll be able to see all the different variations and settings that I can assign to a particular order. So let me pull up this trade manager right here on the top of the screen. Okay, and the trade manager, when it opens up, it defaults to the orders tab, which is great because this gives me access to all the orders that are being submitted at this precise moment. And at the very top, we have another bar which is the trade bar. This is the one that we're going to be taking a look at right now. And since I want the trade bar to be fixed at the top of my TradeStation platform, I am going to use a push pin right here towards the left-hand side. So just take your cursor towards the left. You see the push pin right there. When you hover over it, it says auto hide on the tooltips, and all I need to do is click on it so that my trade bar is fixed at the top of my TradeStation platform. And if you do decide to use the desktop trade bar as your main order entry tool, then it works excellent to have it right there displayed at all times. You know, many users, and the reason why TradeStation made it an auto hide trade bar is because of this space to the right hand side. Whenever you have a high resolution monitor, you know, sometimes the boxes and the text is really small, but the trade bar, you can see that it pops up as a whole bar, taking up all the space at the top of the TradeStation platform horizontally. And sometimes you have this space at the right, which is not used at all. Many users that run the TradeStation desktop bar, the trade bar, they usually put their positions over here on the right-hand side. My position graph bar, let me just pin it also, gives me a list of all my positions. You can see that, well, in this particular example, I have my positions on the top and I have the trade bar at the bottom. But if you wanted to combine these two bars because of what I just explained a moment ago, that, you know, the trade bar has this gray space on the right-hand side that is unused, you just need to click and drag the position graph bar to this area. Let me show you how that works. You know, sometimes the functionality is a little bit, I would say, not so intuitive. But let's go ahead and take a look at this. There's a handle right here between the push pin and this little button. You know, you can click and drag inside of those two buttons. If it's difficult to reach, because you can see that my position graph bar is very narrow, and if I try to put my cursor in between that little button and the push pin, it's really tough. So the little button here at the bottom gives me the ability to make this a floating window. Right now it's docked. That's the one that is checked, which means that it's at the very top of my TradeStation docked to that space. If I make it floating, then my positions are kind of a floating window, as you can see right there in the middle of the screen with the blue title bar. When I click on the title bar and I drag it, I get these little symbols, like they work as overlays, letting me know where my position graph bar is going to be situated. If I go right here to the very top and I hover over this symbol or this kind of an indicator, notice how it gives me a shade in blue as to where the position graph bar is going to be placed. This is not the place that I want it. So let me go over here to the right-hand side over here. Okay, that means that it's going to put it right here on the right-hand side, not what I want. Okay. Notice that the little, you see, sometimes I have to do it on my screen just to make sure that I remember how the functionality works. But you can see how these overlays pertain to the work area where my trade manager is. So I can go to the bottom, I can go to the top, to the left, or to the right. You see how the highlights just move with my cursor. But if I move my cursor over here on top of my trade bar, take a look. Now I have the ability to drop my positions on top of the trade bar. If I do it right there in the middle, let me show you something really interesting right here in the middle. Notice how my trade bar is built with two tabs. Now you can have a trade bar, you can have a position graph bar. You see? So when you put it right there in the middle, it'll just put them on top of each other, and you have the ability to click on tabs at the bottom to switch back and forth, but which is not what I want. You know, what I wanted to do is utilize the space that's on the right-hand side. So I'm going to take my position graph bar again, drag it out of the trade bar, and then I'm going to put it right here on the right-hand side as the shade here says. And there's a divider that I can push over here to the left or to the right, which gives me the ability to push it and organize it in a way that makes sense to me. So right now, that space that was gray, well, first of all, I have my advanced setting, which are these check boxes, but now I see my positions here on the far right utilizing that space. Just a little bit of navigation, a little bit of organization for those of you that are just getting started with TradeStation, just in case you do decide to trade using the trade bar and you have a way of organizing things a little bit better, a little bit more efficiently, okay? Let's go and talk about the trade bar. You can clearly see the 4 tabs right here on the left-hand side: equities, options, futures, and Forex. So depending on the asset class that you're trading, you're gonna have to click on that tab. Some of the buttons, some of the functionality will change depending on the asset class that you're selecting. In fact, if you go to Forex, Forex order entry functionality, I think, has been disabled because TradeStation is not a broker in Forex anymore, although not to say that it will never be. It was in the past a few years ago, but we made a business decision not to be brokers in the Forex markets, but that could change. You never know. So the Forex tab is there, and I think I tried placing some simulated trades on the Forex tab and it wouldn't allow me, but that could change, So the ones that are tradable at the moment are equities, options, and futures. And options, of course, are going to be stock options and index options. For those of you that are trading futures options, those are done somewhere else. Those are not done here on the platform. They're done on Futures Plus. We do some classes on Futures Plus. So if you're a futures options trader, then this is not the platform to use. Perfect. Let's go ahead and take a look at equities. Equities is the one that has the most number of boxes and features and functionality. So I'm going to stay here and maybe refer to the other tabs as there are differences. So we can use them as a contrast or as a comparison. First of all, the symbol box. If you go to the drop down, nothing happens. If you type in anything inside of the symbol box, the search results come up. It's very comprehensive, the search tool. In fact, if I type in the description of the company, if I don't know the ticker symbol and I just know the name of the company, I can just type it in there and the search functionality works. So let's say, for example, that I don't know the ticker symbol for Home Depot. I can type in the name of the corporation, Home Depot, and notice that it tells me, that the symbol is HD, and I can click it from here. So use both. Use either the ticker symbol if you know the ticker symbol by heart, or you can just type in the name of the corporation, and the search will work right inside of that box. When you type in a symbol, these 3 buttons show up automatically. We have the B button, which is the bid, the L button, which is the last, and the A button, which is the ask. So bid, last, and ask. Last, of course, would be the last traded price, and it tells you the last traded size right there in the corner of that button. But these are real-time buttons. They give you a real-time quote on the bid, on the ask, and also the last traded price, which sometimes is convenient. And a lot of times, if you're looking at something really active and traded very quickly, like Spider, the bid and ask sometimes are going to be very tight, and it's always going to be a penny or two. In this particular example, we have like a 20-cent spread, between the bid and the ask. That's because Home Depot, is trading at $330, so a 20-cent spread is not such a big deal. But you can see, those prices right there in the box. Those buttons are clickable, and they will populate the price that is shown inside of that button. It'll populate the limit price box. So if I click on the bid, it'll send that price over here to the limit price box. It won't update. Once it goes here to the limit price, it'll be static. So when I clicked on it, it was 330.31 cents, but you can see how the bid price has moved away from it. So the clicking only happens that fraction of a second that you click on it. It sends the price over and it stays like that. But any of these buttons will do that. If I click on the ask, it'll send the 3:30 and 49 right here to the top. If I click on the last, it'll send the 3:30 and 43 seconds right here to the top. So they all work the same way. It all depends on which price you want to be, sent over here to the pricing boxes. And as you can see, we have just the limit price box visible. That's just because the type of order, let me see where the order type is right here. Order type is set to limit. That's why you only see a limit price box. But if you change the order type to a stop market, notice how the limit price box is hidden and now you have a stop price. But the same feature that we talked about, the clicking on the bid, ask, and last to send the price over there works exactly the same. If I click on the bid, it fills in the price right here for the stop, which is the available box. If you do something like a stop limit, which has two pricing boxes, let's go over here. The type here is stop limit. So now you have a limit and a stop. Clicking on the bid or the ask will populate the price on both boxes at the same time. All right, so very quickly you can access those quoting buttons to populate your price if you want to. Of course, you can go in there and type in the price yourself. If you want to do a manual entry of the price, that's totally up to you. Rich, that's a good question. Can the font on the trade bar be increased? Is not a setting inside of the TradeStation platform, unfortunately. The size of the trade bar is pretty much controlled by your graphics resolution and magnification. What I do for my classes, since these are high resolution monitors, these are 2K monitors. If I leave my computer with the default settings, my TradeStation looks very small. So what I do is I go to my display settings, and I choose the monitor on which I'm displaying, and I scale the size, change the size of text, apps, and other items, and I set mine to 150. So anybody that wants to bump up the font of TradeStation on one screen, you can do that here using magnification. You don't have to change the resolution, just the magnification, the zoom in. Of course, this will affect everything that is used on this screen. Some people may not like that. They don't like, changing screen resolution just to make TradeStation look bigger. But at the present time, we don't have a dedicated size, option for the font inside of the trade bar. It is controlled exactly or precisely by the screen resolution and the magnification. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some trades. So we talked about quoting. We have a dedicated magnifying glass right here next to the symbol box. This will take you to the symbol lookup. Although we already said that you can type in either a ticker symbol or a description inside the symbol box and the search is activated. But if you want a more dedicated dialog, just click on the magnifying glass, and this is the symbol lookup for stocks. Notice how the symbol lookup is asset specific, so it doesn't have all the asset classes here on the left-hand side. It just allows you to search for stocks because you clicked on the magnifying glass on the equities tab. If I were on futures and I clicked on the magnifying glass, then it defaults here to futures. If you wanted to have something that it's a little bit more inclusive of all the asset classes, what I recommend you do is click on any dialog here or any application. I have the trade manager right here in place. I press the space bar to bring up what's called the command line. And inside the command line, there is a magnifying glass, which is the symbol lookup. But this one is more comprehensive. If I click on it, you can see that it has all the asset classes that you can search for inside of the TradeStation network. Okay, so just a little bit of information of what the behavior is depending on where you click. Okay, let's go here to equities again. There is a little button with a pound sign or the hash. We will call it a hash. That controls the way that the quantity where the size of your trade is specified. The default is, of course, number of shares. So that little button with the hash or the pound sign is number of shares. So when you see the number 500 is specifically talking about $500. Now, if I click on the little pound sign, it turns that into a dollar sign. So now my quantity is being expressed as a dollar amount. So if I wanted to trade 10,000 shares or $10,000 worth of equities, in this case, Home Depot, it does the math for me. So let me bring up the calculator. So $10,000. Let me see if this works. $10,000 divided by the current price, which is $329.58. So it's going to trade 30.34 shares. Of course, fractional shares are not allowed. So she's just going to trade 30 shares. Let's see if that's the case. Let's suppose that I want to do a limit order, and I'm going to do a price of $330. I'm typing that in myself. So I'm going to do $10,000, and I'm going to buy Home Depot. So it says invalid order quantity. This is something that you may get on your trade bar. The reason why TradeStation is generating an invalid order quantity is because when you use the dollar amount to set the size of your trade, it's going to want to trade at least 100 shares. We already did the math, and the $10,000 only allows us to trade about 30 shares of Home Depot, and that's why the order quantity is invalid. I wish this error message would provide you with additional details as to what is going on, but an invalid order quantity, yeah, it could be a little bit confusing because then you double check your quantity and you say, well, my quantity looks right. I don't see anything wrong with it. But the reason, just to tell you, and this is something just log it in the back of your head, whenever you use the dollar amount as a quantity, it only allows you to do a minimum of 100 shares. So if I really wanted to trade 30 shares of Home Depot, I cannot use dollar amount. I'd have to go here to the pound sign and then enter the quantity of 30 and then just submit. Let me do 329 since the price dropped a little bit. I'm going to buy them. And that's my order right there. Now the quantity of 30 because I specified 30 as a number of shares and not as a dollar amount. Let me go ahead and cancel this order. I can cancel the order from the trade manager by right-clicking on it. Cancel either this by 30 HD, that's a specific cancellation, or just cancel all Home Depot orders, or you can cancel all active orders. Okay, so that's interesting. Let me just cancel this trade. And let me put it again as a dollar amount, but in this case, I would have to trade at least, $30,000. If I do $30,000, okay, we know that the $30,000 divided by the 329, it's going to give us 91, not quite, it's going to give us 91 shares. So we need to raise it. So let's do $40,000 instead. We know that we're going to get that error if we don't quite reach, the 100 share minimum. So if we do 40,000, and I go to my calculator, let's go ahead and do 40,000 divided by 329 gives us 121 shares. Not quite 100, but at least this will not generate an error. Let's go ahead and do that. Let me buy it. And there we go. That's the order sitting there for the quantity of 100. So even though, this is something really interesting too, even though we provided a quantity that would have given us 121 shares, notice how there was some rounding going on. So yes, when you use a dollar amount, it's going to round it down to the nearest even lot. So since the calculation gave us 121, it'll just trade 100 shares. What controls this rounding down, rounding up, and the order quantity kind of settings? That is part of the order entry preferences. So I'm going to go over here to File, Preferences, and let's go here to Order Entry. In the order entry, I'm going to go to Equities, and I'm going to click on Trading. So, here we go. When you use quantity, so let's suppose that US dollar per trade, and then always round down to the nearest even lot, up to the nearest even lot, or to the nearest even lot. Okay? Okay, so since it's 121, down to the nearest even lot is the one that brings us down to 100. Even if it was really close to 200, let's say that in the mathematical calculation, we had a quantity of 199, it's still going to round it down to the nearest even lot because that's the instruction here. So down or up, you choose the direction you want to round, or to the nearest even lot, which is depending on where the number falls. If it's 199, of course, it's going to go to and trade 200 shares. But the minimum of 100 shares is something that you cannot change. It's something that is hard coded. So just keep that in mind. Whenever you use a quantity that, or a dollar amount that does not quite calculate into an even 100 or at least 100 shares, you're going to get an order or a quantity that is invalid. Okay, perfect. Marcel, which tabs are you referring to? How do you get those tabs at the bottom? Are you talking about these tabs? These are the trade manager. I mean, I just have the trade manager opened up instead of my workspace, and the trade manager has the tabs at the bottom, if that's what you're referring to. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at, I'm going to switch it back to a hash or a pound sign. The 500 that you see there, if this is something that is a quantity that you never use, then that can be changed. So when we go back here to File, Preferences, and you go to the Order Entry Preferences, for equities, you can go to Trading and change what the default amount is. So if it's a fixed share, notice that 500 is the default amount. But if you want to start off with 100, you can just change it in there, and it does it for you. So every time you come over here to the Trade Manager, the default will be 100. You also can set the defaults for the order type, the route, and the duration. We'll talk about those in a little moment, but those are things you can set. If you find yourself that you're changing some things all over and over, come over here and set them as default so you don't have to. I'm going to click OK. So now if I change it from a dollar to a pound sign again, notice that now it resets back to 100 if that's something that you want to do. Okay. Yeah, Marcel, those tabs that you see right here at the bottom, the orders, the average price, those are tabs that belong to the Trade Manager. This is my Trade Manager window that I opened up inside of my TradeStation. All right. It's just that if you have it, filling up the whole workspace, it just seems like the tabs right here at the bottom came from somewhere else, but they're part of the application. All right, so that's in regards to quantity. These directional arrows, you can see how they increment the quantity by 100 shares. That is also controlled in preferences. So if you want that to be single shares rather than 100, that is done here, File, Preferences, Order Entry, Trading for Equities, and right here where you see the amount, the increment is what happens when you click on that directional arrow. It increments the quantity by the amount you put in here. And the acceleration field over here on the right is taken into account when you click on the button and you hold. Pretty cool, huh? So if you click and hold, it'll increment the quantity by 500. So if I wanted to maybe change this, let's say, for example, that I'll do 10. Oh, the minimum is, okay. So I guess I could not have used 10 if I wanted to. So if I wanted to set it to 1, no, nothing that I can do. I have to choose one of these. I'll set it to 100 and the acceleration 500. Okay, that's fine. So notice that if I click on the directional, it'll increment by 100 every time I click on it. And if I click on hold, it'll increment by 500 at a time. So, all right, wish there was a reset button, but there isn't. So I'm going to go back here to 100. That's the directional arrows. The P, next to the directional arrows, just remember what P stands for. P stands for position. In this case, the letter P right next to my quantity is grayed out. And the reason for that is because I don't have an open position for Home Depot. If I had an open position on the symbol that's in the symbol box, the P would be available. For what purpose? For what reason? Well, the P allows you to populate the quantity box with the number of shares that you own. Now, sometimes if you're in and out of trades, you know, if you're trading something that you haven't traded in a while, you may have forgotten the exact number of shares you own. So the P pretty much looks into your account, see how many shares you own, and automatically puts that quantity in the quantity box for convenience purposes. So let's suppose I'm going to grab one of my positions here. I have American Express. AXP is the one that's losing the most. It's losing about $5,000. No, the ones that's losing the most is Disney, but AXP is at the top. So this is sorted, I believe, in alphabetical order. If I hover over AXP, notice my position size. It shows up right there in the data tips. It says that I'm long 1,000. So I'm going to come over here and type in AXP in the symbol box. I can hit the enter key if I want to. And notice how the P lights up. It lights up because it knows that I have a position available for American Express, and I can use the P to populate the quantity. Keep an eye on the quantity here that it says 100. I'm going to click on the P, and you're going to see the 100 update to 1,000. I'm going to click it once, and there we go. Now we have 1,000. So the P, as I said before, only lights up if you have a position open on that symbol, and you can click on it to populate the quantity very quickly. There is a little drop down next to P. This is something that was not added a long time ago, but it does allow you to set the quantity to a percentage. So if I wanted to get rid of a certain percentage of my position, I can click here, and let's say that I wanted to get rid of 250 shares. I can say sell those at market. So order filled. You hear my audible confirmation. I get filled. I sold 250. So now if I click on the P again, I'm going to expect this quantity to update to 750, which is the remaining number of shares for American Express. I'm going to click on P, and there we go. We have 750 shares of American Express. All right, so that's just a very quick drop down for you to select percentages. Can those percentages be adjusted? Unfortunately, no. We only have available the 25%, the 50%, and the 75% on that drop down. Eventually, I think maybe this feature will be enhanced for you to create other percentages. But based on my position size of 750 shares, it just gives you an indication of what 25% of that would be, what 50% of that would be, and what 75% would be in number of shares, so that you don't have to do the calculation yourself. Okay. Order type we talked about. We have 4 main order types. Main order types because we have other functionality that allows you to do all sorts of things. And we have the trailing stops. We have some OSOs and OCOs, which are not reflected here in their order type. But that's why I said order type gives you some major types of orders. Starting with the limit, which we talked about. Limit is when you want to specify a price and you want to get that price or better. So it puts a limitation on the order. Different than market order. Market order, you're open to anything that's happening at the moment. TradeStation will try to get the best price for you. But since you did not specify a price with a market order, you're open to anything that's happening at the moment. But that, of course, gives you the quickest and not the quickest execution, because you could have a limit order that gives you, or that has the same execution speed of a market order. What the market order gives you is some assurance that your order is going to get executed and filled, at whatever price possible. A limit order, of course, you're putting a limit on the price you want, so the order may just sit there and not get filled at all. All right, and then you have the stops. You have two variations of the stop. The one that people use the most is the one that's called stop market, because that's the one that gets activated immediately and it tries to get you out at whatever price is available. That's why it's called stop market, because when the stop trigger is reached, it turns the order into a market order. And we already talked about how the market order behaves. But the stop limit order is a different variation. The stop limit combines a stop with a limit order, meaning that when the stop price is reached, that's your trigger, instead of turning your order into a market order to get you out or in, it's going to turn the order into a limit order. So there's an additional price condition that you want the order to meet. So yes, that's the difference. Stop limit orders are not as popular as the stop market order, but it's used sometimes. And that's why when you use a stop limit as a type, you have two boxes for price. You have to specify what's the trigger price or the stop price, and then you have to specify what the limit price is. Okay, so if you set the prices incorrectly, the trade bar is very quick at telling you, hey, the prices cannot be like that. For example, if let me do American Express again. Let's suppose that I want to sell the 750 with a stop limit order. I want to sell them. Let's say that I want to sell at 190. Actually, no, it has to be lower. Let's sell at 189. If I do the same price on both, boxes, it'll work. Let me cancel this order. But if I choose, for example, to sell this at 188, let's see if this works. Stop price 189, sell at 188. It does work because the limit price is lower. But if I cancel this order and I say I want to sell at 190, let's see, sell. Order rejected. It rejects the order. Whenever you get a reject or a rejected order, first of all, you see how it's painted in red. Right here in the trade bar at the very top, it's just the font is really small. It gives you the message as to why the order got rejected. It says the reason, it says invalid limit price. Limit price must be at or below the stop price. So that, of course, tells you that whenever you set a stop limit order, the limit order needs to be below the stop price. So sometimes it's very clear. If you miss the error that's shown up here, the error is also recorded in the messages tab of the trade manager. So right here, the very top is the most recent communication from the order execution network. And you can see that it has a reason attached to it. It says invalid limit price. Limit price must be at or below the stop price. Very clear. There's no questions about what you need to do. It just needs to be adjusted accordingly. And I wanted to give you a little bit of information about that, because sometimes you're going to get a reject on your order, and it's because of the way that the two prices are behaving. Let's go ahead and click on stop market. You also have some auto pricing functionality. So let's suppose that I want to sell my position. This is something that you have to do beforehand. The auto pricing sometimes works really nice because you don't have to think about the price that you want to get out at. You can just think of it as an offset and say, well, I'm going to change the increment here, and I'm going to set it to 1. 1 means just $1. Okay. Now let me go back here to the auto. And if I say I want to shave, sell at the bid +1, buy, or I want to improve. Yeah, improve and shave are the ones that I would look at, to create some distance between what the current price is and what the price you want. It is nice that I have a very clear and detailed description of what is going to do. So if I choose improve, it's going to take the bid and add the 1. And if I sell, it's going to take the ask and do a -1. So if I want to set a stop at $1 from the current trading price, I'm going to choose improve. Notice how the stop price box gets grayed out. And what you see inside of it is IMP, short for improve, and 1, which is the amount that I'm improving the asking price by. Okay. So remember that to improve the asking price, you have to subtract a 1 from it. And that's what's going to set my stop price. So if I sell with that price improvement, it's going to set my selling transaction at the ask, which is 189.29 minus 1, which is 188.29. Let me go ahead and sell this. And you can see the price right here on my active order. You can see how the stop is set to 188.29, which is exactly $1 away from the asking price. I didn't have to enter the 188.29 because the offset automatically calculates it for me. So if you find that you're sending orders and you're always having a stop or a limit or a target at a specific amount, you can use the auto pricing features to help you with that, okay? Let me turn this off. I just have to click on auto one more time and say auto stop price off. That turns off that feature. If you haven't used the auto pricing feature right here for the stop, it's also available for limit if you bring up the limit order. I would suggest that you try it out on the trading simulator and practice it, because at the beginning it may be a little bit confusing as to what it's doing. So that's why I said that when you click on the auto button, I'm glad that it provides you at least some information about what is the mathematical process that is going to be applied when you select that auto pricing feature, okay? For route, you have multiple selections. One of the things that I say, or that I tell TradeStation clients when they look at routing, is that if you are not sure about the route that your order needs to take, then just leave it on Intelligent, which is the very top one. Intelligent is a TradeStation order routing technology that's on the server that automatically routes your order to the proper venue for execution, usually providing you a best execution. But if you have questions as to should I send it somewhere else, then you probably should not be even considering that option. You just leave it on Intelligent. What I'm trying to say is that you should only change the route if you know for sure that a particular route is going to benefit you somehow. And if you don't know that reason, or that you would get a better execution somewhere else, then just leave it on Intelligent, okay? The routing is something that we don't have available for futures. We do have it available for options though. But for futures, all the orders go to the exchange for execution, so there's no route concept. But for equities, there is, and you can select any of these. There is some documentation in the help that you can search. So for example, if you come over here and let's say RCX or ARCA, they just catches your attention. You can search for ARCX on the TradeStation help. Let me just go here to help, get help, platform trading. So if I search for ARCX, not execute basket, supported exchanges. Here we go. I think this is it. This is not the one that I wanted to look at. So let's go here to data network. Let me see. Let me just make sure that I give you the right information. Market center, identifier. Let's use NASDAQ. Let me search for NASDAQ instead. NASDQ. Supported exchanges, market center identifier. Maybe it was taken out. Could be. NASDAQ National Market. I know that there was some documentation that provide you details as to, some of the hours of operation, what their kind of routing was, where the location was, but I don't seem to find it here. Let's do ARCA instead. So New York Stock Exchange ARCA. So here it is. Okay, so order durations, order behaviors. So it's not on ARCX, although I know that ARCX is ARCA. So you'd have to know the name of the market maker ECN to look it up. So we have other options here that you can look at. So once you search for ARCA, it just gives you the other ones right here. So let's say, for example, you want to take a look at CBOE, and it gives you order behaviors for CBOE. Okay. So look at the documentation if you're interested in knowing what these different venues do. But for the most part, you're going to be using the route of intelligence. If it hasn't been a concern to you for all these years, then it shouldn't be a concern. We'll choose the best route for your order by just leaving it on intelligent. And the duration, we have multiple options right here. Day is the default. We expect that your order is just going to be valid for today, and that's the live or the duration that we're going to give it by default. But you have the option of GTC or GTT. GTC is good till cancel. GTT is good till date. So you have to specify a date on which the order gets canceled. Each one of these have a variation of a plus sign. The plus sign next to the duration is when you're trading extended hours. So your order is not inside of the 9:30 to the 4 p.m. regular session. It is outside. Some of these securities start trading as early as 6 a.m. in the morning and stop trading as late as 8 p.m. at night, even though the official session is from 9:30 to 4. So those sessions that are outside of what's considered the regular session is what's covered by this plus sign that you see in duration. And yes, you can trade during those pre-market and post-market hours, but you have to choose a duration of day plus, which means extended hours. We have a couple here, IOC and FOK. Very similar in behavior. IOC stands for instant or cancel. FOK stands for fill or kill. Now, depending on some of the configuration that you have in your order bar, some of these will be available and some of them will not. For example, I think FOK is grayed out. It's because I think we have an odd quantity right here. And let me tell you the difference between the two. Instant or cancel allows for partial fills, but it's an instant order. So whenever you send an order that is IOC, it'll go to the market. If it doesn't find what it's looking for, it'll be canceled. If it finds just half of what you're looking for, it'll fill you on that half and cancel the remaining. But it's an instant order executed. If it doesn't find anything, it'll just get canceled. FOK, on the other hand, is also instantaneous. It has to be filled immediately, but it's looking for the complete amount. So if it doesn't find the full amount of shares, it will just get canceled. So it doesn't allow partial fills, but in the sense of behavior, they both work the same way. They're instantaneous, IOC and FOK. And I think FOK is grayed out because of the quantity here. Let's say that I'm going to set this to 100. Let me go back here to duration, and you can see that FOK is now lit up. So whenever you do a odd number like 150 and you go to duration, FOK is hidden. I think it just is looking for that that even lot concept in the number of shares. Okay. OPG and CLO, these are durations that are offered by certain venues, certain exchanges where stocks are traded. OPG stands for opening and CLO stands for closing. So there is an agreement between the trader and the market maker to give you an opening price or a closing price for your order. For additional details, please go to that exchange and see how that order behaves. This is not something that TradeStation, the TradeStation is handling for you. The order is sent by TradeStation to the exchange with those order requirements, and the exchange is the one that provides you the OPG or the CLO functionality. Okay. Yes, Rich, it would be sell and close. And remember, this is an agreed price by the exchange where these orders are going to be filled at. Okay. I'm not very familiar in how the exchange handles this, if it's done, exactly at the close of the market, but something that we should all research. If it's something that catches your attention, we should all research just to make sure that it's behaving the way that you expect it to behave. And then you have the 1 minute, the 3 minute, and the 5 minute. These are very specific timed durations, and that's exactly how long your order will remain in the market. There's no custom duration, so you cannot say, I want my order to only be active for an hour or 2 hours, but that's something that we can probably enhance in the future, okay? And that's it. I wanted to go through all the different boxes here in the trade bar. For futures, we have duration also. There's no pre and post market concept, so you don't see any pluses next to them. You do have a drop down for account number because if you have multiple accounts, you can switch back and forth between them. Okay. Another thing that you'll find different is the buy and sell button. The buy and sell button will show up depending on the position and the symbol that you're trading. Now, if you wanted to short equities, if you wanted to short any stock, I think that's something that you need to enable. Let me go here to settings. I just right-clicked on the order bar, by the way. Went to settings and I go to order entry preferences. Here under trading for equities, there is a checkbox that says enable short selling. So that allows you to see the selling short buttons on the trade bar. However, for American Express, the sell short buttons are not showing up. It's because I already have a long position on American Express. But if I change this to something that I don't own, like Home Depot, you can see how the sell button turns into a sell short. So I can initiate a short transaction. Some of those things, were implemented into the trade bar to simplify its look. There's no reason why you should have a button all the time there if it's not available for you to click. So depending on some of the selections that you make on the trade bar, some things may be disabled or appear grayed out is because they don't apply to the order that you're submitting, okay? So that's for the shorting side. On the options though, the buttons here are buy to open or sell to open. If you don't have a position open, as soon as you type in a symbol for which you have a position open, these buttons will change because now it'll assume that you want to close it. For futures, again, buy and sell. There's no short or sell short button for futures because you would just sell a contract if you want to short a futures contract. All right. OCO and OSO is a button that we talk about in a separate session because I have to drill down on all the different scenarios and all the different features that are part of that button. And the same goes for stage, but stage here allows you to stage your orders for later execution, especially if you are getting ready for the markets. And this works really nicely, like for those traders that are getting ready at the morning hours of the day, and you're looking at different things that you may want to trade, you can set up the orders in advance using the stage button. All right, but that's it. I wanted to give you a rundown on all the different features and all the different boxes here for the trade bar. The default button here, by the way, anything that you select right here on the top and you press the default button, it'll change your default order entry settings. The same default settings that we can access by going to settings order entry preferences, and then clicking on trading on any of the asset classes. We're talking about all these defaults, okay? So that's what I had for you guys today. So I want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for being part of the TradeStation Masterclass family. And tomorrow, I'll see you guys at 11:30 for Ask the Experts. As I said at the very beginning, I'm going to follow
I
up with
pronounce that master, but I'm always working on how I say things and I might not have it right.
That's my office assistant who gets in the way sometimes. So as I said at the beginning, I'm going to be sending.
I'm not quite sure how
Oh
to
my
help you
God.
with that.
I'm going to be sending that notification with, I'm going to have to turn her off, for that. But thank you guys for being here. And I hope to see you in a future class. Goodbye, everyone.